Lastly, we want to talk about correlation. So in the videos, we mentioned that there are two related quantities. We have covariance and we have correlation coefficients. So there should be a way for us to do the calculations for these values. So first, let's try to do them step by step. So let's say I just want to focus on these 9 values first, because that allows us to focus on these small number of values and focus on the calculation and the Excel operations. So I want to calculate the covariance for all these two variables, temperature and the CNT. I want to see whether it is true that when temperature gets higher, I have more people who want to rent bicycles. Okay, so according to the lecture, we know we should first calculate the average for each variable. Okay, so average 1, average 2 looks fine. And then for each particular value, temperature here, I should calculate temperature minus its average. Okay, temperature minus its average. And later I'm going to scroll down. So here I'm going to fix 12. Okay, fix 12 because, oh, sorry, it should be 11. So that later when I scroll down, 11 is fixed. Okay. Actually, what I should do is that you can say that, well, how come I don't just do fix C and fix 11 together? Because I know later I also want to scroll to the right. Because for CNT, I will do things again. So let's fix 11. And then let me scroll down. Okay. All these values are indeed the difference between temperature and its average. And then if I copy everything to the right, I can see that, okay, CNT minus its average, or CNT minus its average, looks good. So then I get all these values. According to the lecture, what I should do is that I should multiply them together like this. Okay, I should multiply them together, and then if one of them is negative, I of course get 2 negative values. So then I can sum them up. Okay, when I sum them up, what's that? That's basically covariance, right? I get all these products and I sum them up. And if I have these values, and then I have some positive values, negative values, and if they are all negative values, for example, then that means when a variable goes up, the other variable goes down, and then that means there are some kind of negative correlations. Otherwise, if most of the values are positive values, when one variable goes up, the other also goes up, then basically we say there is a positive correlation or positive covariance. So of course, we may also take a look at the formula if you want some reminder. So here we can see, okay, we get covariance and the definition is like this, and we also have simple covariance. Oh, sorry. So what I forgot to do is that I should divide this number by, of course, n. So here I also want to count the number of values I have. So this is my covariance, negative 290. Okay, so at least for these 9 days, I see a negative correlation. Okay, so in Excel, of course, we also have a function which is called covariance.p. So obviously, we should use the .p thing here if we say we are doing a population thing. So here we just select these values in the CNT column. So we need to select 2 columns, of course. We need to have temperature as the first one, and then we should have CNT as the second one. So then we get exactly the same value. And of course here, if you feel that you are doing some kind of sampling, you just see a few days and you are not trying to describe them. You are trying to do some kind of inference. Then what you should do is that here, you should divide the total amount of sum of the pair of products by n-1. And if you do that, here, of course, you should change to covariance S instead of covariance P. Then you again get the same value. Okay? So we're almost done. If we are able to do covariance, then doing correlation coefficient is just the same, because all we need to do is to then divide the covariance by relative individual variance, or I mean standard deviation. Okay, so let's try it. I may first calculate the standard deviation, and if I think this is a population data, I select them. Okay, that's standard deviation 1. And then I do it again, standard deviation 2. So now I get two sets of two standard deviations. So what I should do is that I have a covariance. I should divide that covariance by the product of the standard deviation here. So I get a somewhat weak correlation here because the value is just around negative 0.3, not a very huge value. Okay, and of course I also have COR-REL. This is to return the correlation coefficient between two data sets. So let's try this. I have this one and I have the next one. You can see that, well, the value is just exactly the same, right? So that means the way that the Excel is doing that calculation and our step-by-step thing are just identical. So we use two ways to get the same value. Looks good, right? So in general, you of course don't do things by yourself every time. You use Excel functions, and that's going to make your life easier if you want to get just a single value for covariance or correlation coefficient.